Rabbit here, and I got with me a guy who I don't know if any of you guys have heard of him, but I've been following him like crazy on Twitter. Exalted Speed. Welcome
Hi.
aboard.
Hi.
Yep,
I
go ahead and pimp yourself up and introduce yourself.
I'm Exalted Speed. I run a Twitter about comics. I also have a YouTube channel about comics. I write a lot about comics. Though there are occasions where you'll see me get into moments of Gundam or weird other nerdy topics you don't think I'm into until you find out I'm into.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us are like that. My channel can be very much like that, and yeah, just wanted, and you definitely, when I was reading your stuff, I'm just like, this guy gets it. He knows when to talk and just to talk about comics, and mostly avoids the drama, unless he's actually giving out his own opinion, which I know you try your hardest to avoid the drama. Sometimes the drama comes your way, like certain stands coming at you.
Do I really want to talk about the?
No, you don't. No, you don't. I just
No,
wanted
I
to bring
don't.
that up. I just wanted to bring that up and have people be like, oh, he has to deal with that too.
Well, I've dealt with some people at this point. It became kind of a running gag that I have on my Twitter and with my mutuals that I piss off people with the most benign takes possible, and I don't know how.
I've seen people like that as well. It's just like,
yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So what comics are you into?
Well, everything. Okay. So
Like what is like me? I'm mostly a DC guy with I would say a summer home in Marvel is how I would describe it.
Okay, well, let me finish typing up like the link here, and I'll go over a bit with this here.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to. I'm making sure to announce on my stream so my followers can maybe listen to me. And
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'll just continue talking, and because like with me, like I said, I do like Marvel, but I don't love Marvel. I don't love everything about it because I'm not buying everything about it. Mostly because a lot of the books they have don't appeal to me at all. It's just I mean, I'm very picky, but it seems like with DC, I'm more likely to just jump on in, whereas just Marvel they lost me a long time ago, and they really have to work hard to get me. Like Runaways was one of the last ones where that kept me going because I'm a devoted fan to it.
Okay, so I'll talk about this on my end. So I should probably, if I'm going to talk about like what comics I'm into, I'm very much a comics as a medium guy. So I try out everything.
Gotcha.
When I say I'm a comics Twitter, I'm not necessarily anti-indie, anti-Marvel, DC. I try out everything. I started out, look, like all comics people, I started out reading Marvel and DC. Unlike those indie guys who won't admit it. I'm joking, of course.
Right.
But you know who you are. The joke being here is I grew up liking the medium a lot and growing up very close to it. I started out more as a Marvel guy. My favorite superhero is Spider-Man. So I'm like, if you notice my Twitter threads, they tend to be very Spider-Man centric or Spider-Man adjacent. My favorite superhero all time, he's probably the character I own the most action figures of, if I'm being honest. So, Spider-Man is my favorite, but I like all Marvel, DC. DC took me. I didn't get into DC until I was about a little older. I was into the cartoons, like who didn't grow up with Batman and shit, like who didn't. But I ended up just spiraling out once I actually got some graphic novels from my folks. It started out with JLA Divided We Fall, which was a Mark Waid.
Oh, yep. I got the deluxe editions that would include that.
Yeah, so I started out there, and then I kind of went forward, and I ended up becoming very much a DC guy with various things. I'm very much into DC Marvel, and I'm also into indie stuff too. I got into Invincible around the time, Walking Dead. Look, I pretty much read all the major important comic books at this point because if it's considered an important comic, I try to find it and read it to get at least get an opinion on it.
Right. And I also know that there's some real good obscure stuff that you've talked about, such as Martha Washington, which I find so funny. This was clearly a satire, but it's more relevant these days.
Well, Martha Washington is one of those odd books because Frank Miller tends to be a very weird writer for people to grasp.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I
and a
mean,
lot of people,
oops, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, a lot of people. Frank is a very contradictory writer, and I don't mean like
Mm-hmm.
his politics are
Oh no.
very contradictory. It's the fact that he tends to write about other characters with different politics than his.
Oh yeah, like when he did the question during Dark Knight Strikes Again. Probably one of the few good things of that book was when he was writing the question. Or
Yeah,
Plastic
no,
Man.
the guy tends to be a very weird, eclectic creator, and you can't really pin him down on everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
anytime people review Dark Knight Returns, I always say, "Are they going to bring up Reagan?"
He was the president at the time. What were they expecting?
No, 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 no. If they bring up Reagan, they're going to have to talk about Frank Miller being more democratic. But if they
Oh, right.
don't,
Mm-hmm.
that they're trying to go, "Oh, Batman's a fascist."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
um,
it's like here's the
that
thing. When it comes to it's like when Larry Hammond said, about people with superpowers, and even Chuck Dixon, when I had him on, agrees with the sentiment that having superpowers can give you that urge of fascisticness. Basically, like it's so easy to go into that it is a power fantasy can fall into fascistic mindsets if you go by the traditional mindset, not the reword current mindsets that people like to think about. And
uh,
you
very,
know what?
very.
Yeah, and that's why I would say was that technically that could fall to any superhero really. Now, granted, in the case
Well,
of with Dark Knight Returns with Batman, yeah, that could fall into the other definition of fascistic too.
there's always been a comic response I wanted to make, and maybe one day I'll make it myself. I work with a couple different people on trying to make my own comics.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to actually ask, because a lot of the American comic book industry was created by Jews back in the day, and I'm Jewish myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've mentioned this on my Twitter, and it always fascinated me that disconnect. Superheroes are inherently fascist, but fascism connected to the Nazi regime, and this
Right.
entire genre
Oh
was created by Jews.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I always wanted to explore that disconnect in something that actually brings it up because
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those great contradictions people don't tend to think about. And I
Now that you
always
bring it
look,
up, I didn't even think about it until now.
well, it's like, okay, you say Superman's fascist, but guy was created by two Jews.
Right, right. Well, no, I said he has the potential for it. Now, in the case of Superman, he
Well,
avoids
I'm
that.
not saying you are saying that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, you meant the general you. You meant the general you.
Yeah, the general you.
Mm-hmm.
So it always was a fascinating thing to me on some level to explore, and there's just hasn't been a comic that really tackled that directly, in my opinion. Or at least in some fashion where I'm like, I'm very satisfied with this exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, when Alan Moore tackled Watchmen, he did it from kind of a European point of view.
Mm-hmm. Similar to
Uh,
V for Vendetta to a degree.
yeah, so to me, I always was fascinated by that disconnect. And I always wanted to see that disconnect explored in a fashion that actually acknowledges the roots of the character. It's one of the reasons I actually kind of like Max Immortal to an extent, since
Mm-hmm.
it's about the creators of Superman. Well, they're not, actually Jerry Siegel and Joe
Right, right,
Kubert,
right.
but
It's their XPs.
yes. But that's always just been fascinating stuff. So, but I'm a fan of the comics medium in general. So I
Right.
just go all over the place. If I try out everything. Like recently, was just like, all right, I'm gonna read a bunch of Seth graphic novels, the Canadian cartoonist. Let's see how this goes.
Oh, I saw your one about that. Where it's so pretentious was the whole indie guy, and he's like, he's a fanboy. Mm.
Well, it's one of those things of I'm fascinated by the indie shame, as I
Mm-hmm.
call it.
Oh yeah, the indie shame, where basically they feel for some reason they are above normal comics. They are above having fanboys, but at the same time, it's like, how are you going to make your money? What, you one of those? It feels like sometimes those are the people who feel like you should. They're the types who would be saying you sell out the moment you update something to higher tech, whatever, because it's like you should be a starving artist. That is what it's like. If you're a starving artist, you're going to die.
Well, now, like my whole thing with this type of thing is that I understand it to an extent. My whole thing here is basically like I just want to actually talk to people about like some of this stuff and just like look, I don't want to bullshit people. I don't want to be pretentious about it. I don't
Right.
want to be like, look, I want to talk to people about comics like a normal person sometimes.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I just am like, look, look, you're doing an autobiographical comic. Bless your heart. Give me something else, you bitch.
So you want to be more blunt to these people and not have them be all like, well, you just don't understand.
I like to be blunt to everyone if I can help it. Look, to me, it's like, look, I try to get cut through bullshit because I personally want to have honest conversations if I can. So when I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, so to me, it's like, okay, I'm just going to be honest about a comic as best I can because you can't. Like one thing I want people to understand about my threads and stuff. I present to you guys information, and you should go off and develop your own opinions. I'm
Yep.
not the be all end all,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
nor do I think I am. Though I will make fun of people if I think they're really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh, I
reserve
definitely
that
agree.
right.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And because there's so many times where people say something really stupid, and I will say this: I'll bring up the topic. We don't need to go into further details, but it's like, for example, you see compare people who do normal crowdfunding, and then you have the certain other group who do crowdfunding. If you know who I'm talking about, you have one
Well,
side that actually adjusts their prices, they actually adjust things, and they actually try to get out on time in a timely fashion. Then you have the other side who have been so convinced. Oh, take your time. Take years to do. Maybe
uh,
years late. Make and charge $25. Oh, make that 30 to 40 or whatever dollars for shipping and everything for a 48-page comic.
believe it or not, I actually have made a decision about it. Is that if I ever do crowdfund comics, and I've considered it myself in the past, but I try to be ethical about shit,
Hmm. Right.
and I wanted to at least have something finished, and just was like, look, I have the entire comic done. I just need the printing cost taken care of.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
That
it.
is perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. That's what some people should do, and that's why I applaud some of those. Like,
That,
I don't know if you at least you've heard of Common America, for example.
yeah, Common America. I have not read it yet.
Oh, it's
But
good. The funny thing about it is it's very well rounded, superheroics, but it's chock full of fan service. But they don't bring it to the attention. Like it's just like the fan service is there because that's how the artist likes to draw. But that's it. It's not like the story saying, "Oh, give us this," and then we'll describe it. No, no. It's just you get what I mean, right?
yeah, no, perfectly all right. Like I said, like I said, I have just not read it because like there are like thousands of comics I read for my Twitter alone at this point, so
Right,
it's like I can't get to everyone. And
right.
plus,
Oh
there's
no.
stuff I just reread. Like before I made my Adam Warlock thread this week, I reread the
Hmm.
comics to make sure I was like, okay, do I have a handle? Okay, I have enough of a handle on the story. And
Oh
even then,
gee, yeah. It was, sorry.
oh yeah, go on.
Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say was yeah, like with Adam Warlock, the most I've ever gotten is the more recent stuff that Jim Starlin worked on it with him. I mean, I've not read all of Infinity Watch, for example. So if you were to ask me something, I'd be more bringing up what was done. The best for me to talk about, for example, would be if I was talking about the recent Infinity Saga he had done. All of those books.
Oh yeah, of course.
And
I've
how and that,
considered.
but that was from another universe. That was a Adam Strange from another from Adam Warlock from another universe that lasted, all those books.
Well, I had to think about whether I should talk about that version at all, and I really did consider it, but I decided to focus on like what was considered the definitive run of the character.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was his '70s run by Jim Starlin. So
Yep.
I just brought that out, and just because I have a nice complete collection, and it is a gorgeous collection.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
bet.
very well colored, a great look. And Jim Starlin's art was very much ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful work. I would, I just like staring at it. Just
Oh yeah, I still
gorgeous.
love during the his Captain Marvel run when you had Thanos, after Rick taunts him and confronts him, just that big, version of him ready to pound him. You're like, the way the coloring was done, especially in addition to it, it's like nothing you've ever seen like that.
Oh yeah, no. The Thanos, the Captain Marvel stuff he did was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Love it to death. Another, like I said, Jim Starlin. I actually got a bunch of the. You see, my uncle was a Marvel 2-in-1 reader when he was
Ah,
growing up, so I actually ended up like reading a whole collection of them.
wow.
So, and I ended up finding Adam Warlock through those issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fascinated by the character, and I later read more about him. Scott McCloud in his various comics also talk about him because he's
Mm-hmm.
one of the deeper characters. And rereading the comic, I was like, oh wow, Neil Gaiman actually did take a lot from this.
Mm-hmm.
With the hero considering, uh, the big thing with Sandman and Warlock is the heroes essentially die at the end, and it's
Right.
kind of like an inevitability of those
Mm-hmm.
stories.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely. I definitely remember all of that because, and like, well, that was a case where Starlin, and he's done this before, where he will just either kill off a character or put his story, make sure it's ending, but it's a case where it's clearly on hold, and he can pick it up whenever he wants.
yeah, that's fair.
I mean, he did that with when he did his Strange Adventure stuff at DC, where he was building all the stuff with Senar, the Demiurge, and at the very end, because sales weren't doing well, he decided to have it be someone kills himself, themselves, so they could stop the plan from happening. But then they said, "Oh, they'll be back," and when that happens, then I'll be back.
Yeah, there. Honestly, I, I decided to actually look into one of his comics, but I didn't read it. I think it was called Extreme Station or something.
A hardcore station.
Hardcore Station. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's what started a lot of the stuff that DC would then utilize when he would do the Captain Comet Mysteries in Space, or like I said, Strange Adventures, or the Ryan Sanagar Holy War. It
I
all
still
started there.
I still need to read his weird comic.
The
That
we
one.
oh, you can get that if you get the second trade of his Mystery in the Space book, because that fills up the rest of the book.
Okay. That I'll have to actually grab that then.
Yeah.
Um. Like another thing to add to my graphic novel collection. Um. But no, like a huge fan of the '70s comic stuff. So,
Right.
yeah. But yeah, like whenever I talk about comics, it's just yeah, no. Whenever I make my threads, I'm just always like, I have to just reread so much stuff, and sometimes it's like, okay, what's important? What do I cut out? What stupid like little factoid can I put into the thread that will be funny and maybe give people a laugh?
Right. Right. Um,
Um,
but yeah, I mean, well, if you don't mind my asking, did you read that Infinity Saga? All six of those books by any chance?
I did. I thought, how do I remember all this stuff? We got a little question there.
Oh yeah, how do you remember? Oh, it's not always easy, man. I can even attest to that.
Uh, okay. So, uh, pure radical stubbornness. Look, here's the thing. When I was a kid, it annoyed me whenever I had to talk about specific versions of characters.
Oh,
Like, because I grew up with the Tim Burton Batman films, right?
mm-hmm.
And I love the Burton Batman films. But it's like, oh, the Joker killed Batman's parents.
Only
And
in
there is
that
the
version.
comic. And then you have the comics, and then you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. No, that's not how it happened.
I
And
mean,
this is
well,
not how it
I
happened.
have I have the advantage of I've always been a fan of the multiverse since almost day one, so I was able to juggle that a lot better than I think others.
And here's another thing that really bugged the fuck out of me as a kid is some comic fans don't remember stories right.
Oh, do not get me started on that.
And
How
then
many
I
times?
read them, and then I'm like, oh, that's how it happened. What the hell?
Oh, and you would not believe how many times I've been seeing that when you have people who want to use complaints saying like, "Oh, they're clearly changing this about a character," and then once I look through, I'm like, guys, I recall that this isn't the first time this has happened, so there is a history. Nope, first time it's happened. Then you guys never really read it. What are you guys talking about?
It was um, it,
Joe Glass. I think he's just making a joke about some guys who do stuff like that.
well, I think he's actually trying to say Joe Chill,
Joe
as
Chill.
in
Oh, that's true.
yeah, Joe Chill, as in like who killed Batman's parents. Joe Chill.
Traditionally, anyway. Traditionally.
Well, there's look.
Well, I'm saying because there's either times where he never
I
captures it.
actually, I actually had a thread on all the different versions of like Batman's parents' death, or at least the different versions of Joe Chill. Um,
I will always bring up one thing that's always going to stick with me out of insanity, the insanity of it all, was from the Batman Lobo, where it was revealed Joker was Brute Batman's little brother.
um, that's fair. My favorite thing to always debunk with people is what Watchmen and Dark Knight actually did, which is a fascinating.
Oh yeah,
Well, it's like this. It's like, guys, uh, Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns invented dark comics, and I'm like, okay,
70 started that at the very least.
you can argue it back to Stan Lee. You can.
Oh yeah, well you can, yeah. But I'm saying as far as if you want to talk about what really repushed it after the comics code stuff, it was the 70s.
70s, 80s. Actually, I think the big factor, in my opinion, on how dark comics took over, direct market.
Yeah, definitely. Direct market, for good or for ill, that's the point when it started to manipulate things. And one could say that could be part of the point where that, or during the 90s when things started to, drift away from getting new readers and just sticking with the old ones.
Well, the thing about it is that a lot of people think that Watchmen was like these weird cult hits. No, they were meant to be popular. It's kind of
Well,
fascinating because I actually
if
did a
Watchmen
lot.
was meant to be popular, why the hell did they have that original stipulation in the contract was more?
Okay, let me actually explain this. And
Sorry,
this is
I'm
going to be
sorry. I just had to shoot that out there because that is a fair question to ask, isn't it?
let me actually explain this. Watchmen was actually designed for the book market. It was
Mm-hmm.
untested at the time.
Right.
So you have to kind of understand this. Graphic novels were very much a newer concept. Now, while they have existed in before, like what there's a whole debate on what is the first graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of contender.
Depends on what you define as a graphic novel.
Look, as I said, there are a lot of possible contenders, and even by that definition, going back to the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, but let's just say this: we're going to talk about collected comics into a book format.
Right. So that would be that. I always just call that the trade. Yeah, the trade paperback
Yeah, a
collection.
lot of people don't tend to know that term off the bat. So trade paperbacks, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So they were getting popular. Now, one of the innovators of that was Cerebus, Dave
Yep.
Sim, the big freaking phone books.
Yeah.
So with that, a lot of this was untested, but Paul Levitz wanted to move into the book market. Now, what I imagine happening was that he didn't expect, or nobody expected, Watchmen to be a big hit in
No
the book
one did.
market.
Yeah.
And that's what really caused the issue and the problem. You also have to understand comic contracts got easier as time went on, but they
Mm-hmm.
used to be more draconian.
Right.
That was by comparison. And I'll just say this.
Yep.
I love Alan Moore and I respect him as a creator to an extent.
Yep.
Okay. That being said, Guy does not know how to legally represent himself, and he really needs to stop that from because at some point that man has fucked himself over more than he
Mm,
probably should.
exactly.
Um,
I completely agree with that. The guy has done that, and the fact is, the fact he's still complaining about it is like, what are you expecting DC to do? There's a demand out there. You expect him to just
I
do it because it's
look,
you?
I understand. Like, look, I'm okay with him complaining about DC and Marvel. I really look.
Oh no, I'm just
Oh
talking about Watchmen specifically. I'm just talking about Watchmen specifically. What was he
yeah.
expecting DC to do? Just stop printing stuff that's been in colleges and all that stuff just to appease him?
Well, look. At the time, look, he let that one go a long time ago. It's just people keep asking because I'll tell you this: researching it, some of it is a bit, some of
All
it.
right.
So let's get that here. But the problem is that Alan Moore also has a history of just at Image, at other places. It's kind of insane. After a certain point, you have to just be like, Alan, just learn to represent yourself or at least talk to people. Dear Lord, honestly, the 1963 stuff, it's all on fucking him. So at a certain point,
Right.
hello, hello, Ando. At a certain point, you just want to be like, okay, fine, but let's not get too much into Alan Moore because, oh
Right,
Jesus
right.
Christ, he could take up an entire like podcast by
Oh, I'm
himself.
positive he can. I am positive he can, and I don't want that.
No, 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 no. He's just one comic creator. I actually have a separate Watchmen account just to avoid talking about it. I'm not even joking.
You do. Oh, you really do.
Yeah, no, I have I actually have two Twitter accounts, and the other one, again, my Twitters are linked, so if you guys want to see it,
Mm-hmm.
it's called oh geez, it reads Watchmen. I specifically made it so because okay, look, everybody hears about Alan Moore and Watchmen, and I was like, I don't want to talk about comics people hear about all the fucking time.
Right.
So I just am like, oh, how do I prevent myself from getting into an Alan Moore tangent? What if I
Mm-hmm.
make an account that will at least make me think about it before I do?
Right.
So literally, it's just there to stop me from talking about Alan Moore all the
Yeah.
fucking time.
To deviate for a moment, one thing I've noticed in a lot of your tweets is that you kind of, and I kind of, it almost fooled me for a moment. You always in response with this guy who's on a fake Linkara account, and believe me, it's fooled me until I realized, wait a second.
Yes.
Yeah, but what's your opinion on Linkara?
He is my rival, and I will defeat him in Mortal Kombat.
In all honesty,
Honestly, okay. My my honest non kayfabe version of this. Okay, Linkara is a is a reviewer who has his limitations, and
agreed.
if you know comics very well, you can actually very much see it. He's not essentially always good at history. He knows the comics he likes,
Mm-hmm.
and
And he's
that's
shown
perfectly
that
fine.
very much so.
Like he knows the comics he likes. I try to be very careful with comics I don't tend to like, or very much like, okay, I'm gonna just and I always make sure to read the books, read interviews before anything else if I talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and very much, I'm also one of those guys that's like, man, I'm going to read this '80s dark deconstruction comic, and then I'm like, now I'm going to go to the '90s and read this shojo bubbly girls comic. Good times.
Yep.
I'm that type of dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's all comics to me, and I try to see other styles.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I look at comics as a medium, not necessarily as
Right.
just like. So he falters in a couple ways. One, he's not always good about talking about art at
Mm-hmm.
all. Um,
Right.
very standard stuff. He like his Liefeld stuff. is stuff I've heard so often.
Oh
It's
yeah, but now to be fair, I've always taken it that there's not much else you can say about Liefeld ends up bleeding, especially with how many videos he's done about it. It just leads to him being on loop.
no, Liefeld's just loop, and at some point, I feel like you should just talk about Liefeld's positives to an extent.
Oh
Because
yeah.
look, guy fucking created Cable.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most.
At least yeah, created. Yeah, you're right. Created Cable. It was later on connected to Nathan Summers.
Look, I'm not. Look, I'm not here to talk about complicated X-Men lore tonight, which is also another possible
What does it say? What does it say when a cosmic story like this is simpler to discuss than the X-Men lore?
Look, so let me put it this way. Look, at least I'm not talking about Linkara's own freaking lore here.
Good God, oh my! And he's still not even done with one of his longest story arcs. Now, to be fair, I don't blame it all on him.
Look, I'm not here to talk. So I watched his video. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Uh, let me actually finish up because somebody just asked me a question,
Yep,
so
yep,
I'll
yep.
talk about this in a sec.
Yep.
So my opinion on this is simply this: Linkara is a limited reviewer. He sometimes does okay reviews, but I don't always like him. He can sometimes be whiny, and his focus. He's very limited as a comics reviewer because he doesn't often talk about art in the best way possible. For one thing, he doesn't take into account stylistic choices. If you actually want to get a good idea of how limited he can be, his parody, that parody Power Rangers comic he did like years ago, and he was
Yeah.
like complaining about like, oh, the words on the shirt. Yeah, that's like that's a stylistic thing you see in older comics, actually, like the
Yeah,
Yellow Kid and shit.
oh yeah, yeah. And then when you look at when he actually did his own parody book with Blood Gun, you're just like, I get the
Yeah,
intent is
look,
supposed to be bad, but at the same time, this is sometimes I think you're missing missing the point.
all right, so let me actually talk about this because Low Sparks Ramen asked me, want to know how comics gone far enough experimentally artistically, and that's a hard question to ask
Oh, I
because
agree.
there's a lot of things you can actually say about how comics have experimented it on genuinely because right now the internet's going to bring into whole different webtoon's a good example of like
Mm-hmm.
we're now starting to see what is actual utilization of the infinite canvas, which is this concept of with a computer you have just as much time space to draw and that downward momentum you can draw as much as you want to an extent.
Right.
And I've seen the style before, but there's also various things on like how people have done different graphic novels. Let me talk about one that's very weird and interesting.
All
It's
right.
called Building Stories by Chris Ware.
Never heard of it.
Okay, so let me talk about this. This is a comic that comes in pieces. And
Literally.
you have to assemble the story from newspaper clippings. Folded
Okay, I think I
paper.
get where this is. I think I get where this is
It's an
going.
entire art book project. Just look, Google images of what you have to look into. I don't think it's
What's it? Wait, what's it called again? What's it called?
Chris Ware's Building Stories, and it's not the most innovative story. It's about a woman living in this building for decades, but the way you
Oh, I
have
see
to
what you
read
mean.
it,
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
yeah, it's an impressive piece of work in like terms of like what you have to go through to read it. It's a fascinating one,
Oh
and
yeah, there's
I
a manual and everything.
yeah, a manual for reading a comic. And keep in mind, you can read the pieces in any order.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a highly bold and experimental comic. There's not a thing I can say that
It's
is
fine
like it.
keeping it as a done in one, but you don't want someone to make a line out of it.
I don't know who would the fuck would make a line out. Like it's a fascinating piece of work. I'm just saying that if you want to talk about artistically and like stuff, there's a lot of stuff you can actually find that is very fascinating. You have more literary comics like Sandman, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Or you have J.H. Williams artwork.
Okay. Oh, have any comics been made good enough that they could be considered good as a literary classic? Okay, I'm just gonna say this. Fuck what is fuck whatever anyone calls literary classics, because let me put it this way. What today's pop culture is tomorrow's literary classic.
Yeah. Now, if I could ever say anything that's the closest, I would have to agree with some people and say Watchmen could come close to that on its own, you know.
Honestly, if I was gonna say to me what are look, I don't look at comics as literary classics. I look at comics are they good
Oh,
comics?
oh, I agree. I'm just saying if you had to push me down and tell me I had to pick an example, that would be the one I would feel comfortable saying.
Uh,
I think that if they were asking me and my life depended on it, I think that's the answer that could help save my life.
I'm gonna say Usagi Yojimbo.
Okay. Oh, that's not a bad one either.
And I'll just tell you why. And I'm just going to put out here, Yosaki Yojimbo. I will. Uh, I have. I have the collection. I have the big books, and I have the original comic collection. But I'll say the original. Oh, Stan Sakai is really cool.
Oh no,
Okay.
actually no, that was Eastman. That was Kevin Eastman.
Oh, Kevin Eastman. Oh, the Ninja Turtles crossover. Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
But I'll say this: the reason I say Yosaki Yojimbo specifically is that it combines one good art, good writing, solid research into Japanese history and mythology
Oh
in
yeah.
combination, and a story told over time with it's very much its own thing. And I feel like it actually has a lot of literary value onto itself.
I mean,
Um,
even when he did the more recent Ninja Turtles crossover with Usagi, he included the legend of Namazu.
yeah, no, there's like a lot of good stuff with
I
it.
know.
And that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion on like, okay, you want what I consider great comics literature, Yosaki and Jimbo. And I'll say this, maybe I'll also consider the first 40 issues of Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh,
I'll
well,
defend myself on that one.
did you ever hear of this one guy? I forget the guy's website, but there's a guy out there who thinks that the first, a good chunk like between the start of Fantastic Four all the way up to before Inferno is considered the great American novel.
Yes, I've heard
Zach's
of this
Fantastic
guy.
Foresight.
I've heard of this guy. Yeah,
I've said
I
this. He makes a good argument in a way. Now, yeah.
honestly, the Marvel universe as a whole is a fascinating piece of collective writing over decades. It's fascinating, and I could talk about it on its own on some other places, but it's always been a fascinating. Like I grew up reading huge chunks of Marvel, so I'm like I said, look, I'm very much like I started as a Marvel guy, so there's a lot of closeness with that. I so yeah, no, well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could talk about that. But literary and comics, I try not to judge comics by literature standards because what do I think of the word cape ship in reference to superhero
I've
comics?
never heard that. I have never heard that.
I've heard it, cape shit. Okay, let me talk about cape shit. I'll say this with cape shit, I sometimes use it as a joking term.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a term I use ever seriously because look, a lot of shit is standard. And I've talked about this before. You can consider shonen and anime cape shit to an extent. And I
Mm-hmm.
know some people were really ticked off when I said that, but stories have tropes, and to me, it's like this. Sometimes they go into a box, and you just enjoy what you enjoy. My whole thing with like cape shit, especially, is like, okay, is it actually decent, watchable cape shit or shitty cape shit? I can do
What is actually defines cape shit? I'm trying. That's like I said. I've not heard this word before.
cape shit from a lot of people, and this is just how people tend to define it. It's a term that kind of it grew out of 4chan. Let's just start.
Oh, let me guess. Pure superheroics.
Pure superhero, bland superheroic
Right.
action. Like
What people who don't understand Superman think he is.
sometimes, maybe to an extent, but people think bland MCU movies cape shit. Like it's like, oh, it's the standard superhero fare. You know,
So funny you say that.
Yeah, like my whole thing with it is this: is that look, I'm willing to enjoy something and give things a chance. I don't
Hmm.
really judge because let me put it this way: people always wonder why superheroes like freaking took. Yes, it's on Co.
Hmm.
I know that. I know it grew out of Co and 4chan. But, like I'm not gonna be. Oh god, god damn it! Do I have to reveal? Do I have to reveal my power levels
No,
now?
no, no, it's all right. It's all right.
I'm joking here. Joking aside, with me, it's like this. I'm fast. One of the things I always thought about is how superheroes actually fucking took over the industry.
Hmm.
Uh, like, oh, oh, yeah, yeah, fuck go. Um, how superheroes took over the industry. It's always been fascinating to me as a fan of comics, and I had to actually realize something, and because a lot of people blame the comics code for how it happened, and it's not necessarily all the comics code's fault.
Hmm.
But some people really are like, no, it was all good till the comics code, and it's like, yeah, let's talk about what happened because it's like, okay, why don't we have westerns,
Right.
movie westerns?
That's a good point. Well, to be fair though, why don't we have westerns in general?
Yeah, no, what movie westerns start to fail? Did you think they were going to succeed in comics?
Mm, they extended it only a little bit longer, but not that much.
Like that's kind of the point. There's only really one western hero who was able to make it out, and that's Jonah Hex.
Right. And that's because it was a
Oh,
unique character that people still really like.
yeah. Another example is War Comics. Why did War Comics the last or why did War Comics stop happening? And there's a
Because,
very
well, I say because, and here's where I say this: when it comes to superheroes, you have a larger variety. Unfortunately, you have stuff like westerns and war. You unless you start bringing in more stuff that can connect the superheroics, like Phantom Tank and all that stuff, you're going to be limited eventually.
well, I wouldn't say that, but here's the thing: what killed War Comics in America is Vietnam,
Well, yeah.
historically. And the reason why is, yeah, nobody wanted to write about the Vietnam War in a heroic fashion.
Or look at Nam. Look at the comic, the Nam.
Yeah, that had to happen way after in the 90s.
Well,
So
that's
that was
true. But I loved how, for the longest time, so long as the original writer was on, it stayed keeping to that. It was only after he left that you finally started bringing stuff like Punisher and all that, and you're like, oh, come on, that's not the whole point of the book.
well, like, look, there's a lot of things you can say about that book. It was a good book for a while, though.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but the reason I think superheroes ultimately survived is this: it was the first to adopt soap opera storytelling at a
Oh,
massive scale.
yeah, especially Marvel.
Yeah, and that really changed things. And a lot of people, and when they started to interconnect the universe, that became the popular thing in America, and that's how it spiraled out.
Right,
It
definitely.
it blows, but that's kind of like the story there, and that's just how it happened. So,
Hmm.
it's history at this point, and I'm not really going to worry about it at this point
Right. But,
because they're all dead now. Um,
yep, yep. But, but yeah, but still, now, I wanted to ask your opinion because I saw your tweets on it. The stuff with John Kent. I'm
John Kent.
of the Yeah, I'm of the belief that I'm willing enough to wait and see. Yeah, of course you have the marketing pushing it way too early and everything, but I'm willing enough to. Tom Taylor, the guy has sold books. You cannot deny that. He sells books, and I'm given that at least how he was able to. I wish he didn't, but he still well-handedly gave
Uh,
Nightwing a half sister and everything. A lot better than Bendis giving Lois a brother.
so I'll talk about this in terms of the problem with this.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Honestly,
there's the problems in them actually doing it. I'm just saying in execution, I'm willing to wait and see.
okay, so my problem more is that they really threw Bendis. This goes back to what Bendis did to John Kent,
Yeah.
and I really feel like the problem is not so much him being made bisexual at all. Like honestly, I have no issue with it. I genuinely don't.
Mm-hmm.
Characters being made bisexual or gay, depending it depends on the situation and previous stories. John being
Mm-hmm.
made bisexual, it doesn't erase characterization that was already established.
Yeah, it doesn't erase him with Saturn Girl.
It doesn't erase him, Girl, or the
what's her
crushes he
name?
had,
Yeah,
or the crushes he had as a kid. It doesn't
exactly.
erase anything of that.
If
And
nothing
that's
else, it enforces some people who want to pair him with Damien.
fair. Anyway,
I had to go
point
there. I
being,
had to go there.
point being, I really don't mind it as much as compared to other people. And if you mind it, whatever. I have discussions about it all the time with people. My whole thing with it is that I really feel like um comics should not have to rely on stunts like these to get
Oh,
readers.
agreed. I completely
And
agree.
that's really where the problem is, because to me this feels more like a death of Superman type of stunt, and that's my
Well,
issue.
the funny thing about Death of Superman was it wasn't meant to be a stunt, not in the way it ended up being. People got to remember that this was done in a
I
case where, remember, it was done purely because
Okay.
they had to cancel the wedding.
All right, I'm going to say this then, just to make it right. It feels like an electric blue Superman stunt.
I would not argue that. I will not argue that one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm
Cool.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm Superman's my boy, and I've been a longtime fan. So if I hear, and I can't help myself,
Um,
if I'm hearing something like that, I'm
well,
like,
I'm just
I'm gonna.
gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this, just so you know ahead of time. Um, I actually think Death and Return of Superman are some of my favorite comics of all time. So I will say, look, I'm very cynical about marketing and stuff, but if I like a comic, yeah, fucking A, I'll talk about it.
Right. Now, I'll just say this. You want to know another case of something that technically was a gimmick given the issue was out on, but was still a good story? The Death of Clark
Which,
Kent.
yeah, no, that was fine. That's a good
Great
story.
story.
Like,
Electric Blue, though, the fact that you had David Michelini feeling confident enough to tell people it's not going to last, and he got fired for it.
if you want actually good, honestly, if you want to get a good problem story, my personal favorite, honestly, the death of Clark Kent is funny because it's basically Hush before Hush.
Yep. But it's
Um,
a lot shorter and not crammed with other villains.
it's like, oh, Clark, your best friend has
Well,
come back.
he wasn't a best friend per se. This,
I
unlike,
I know he's not, but come on. But
yep,
you know what I mean.
yep.
Oh, Clark,
How many
you're
times have we seen some version of Kenny since then? Because you see his name pop up, even in Man of Steel, he was there.
it's kind of one of those weird things. It's almost like Pete Ross sometimes. So
Yep.
people forget about Pete Ross. Okay, jokes aside, there. No, like with me, it's a stunt, and and here's the thing. I really feel like comics have to get back to some fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to focus on a couple things. One, like because look, guys, you have decades of comics to figure out what works.
Right. Now,
Okay,
yep.
you have them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, okay, what are the most memorable runs, and what do people consider the best? Like, I actually think that, I was actually thinking about this. What are good, perfect superhero runs? And I often come back to '90s DC comics a lot of the time, and how they have good baselines for how you make superhero books. You have a city, you have a
Mm-hmm.
character to the city, you
Yep.
have very much okay, you want okay, I'll actually talk about the question in a second, and has a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Um um
Oh,
you
standout rogues gallery. That is a good question.
yeah. So when you have all that stuff, you can build up a lot of shit. And those help out a lot. So to me it's like this. With comics, yeah, no, there's like a bunch of perfect superhero books that you can go to that show you how it's done, how to develop stuff, how to develop rogues galleries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll so let's actually talk about this. Why do modern comics have rogues gallery problems?
Why do they have struggle with it? Because a bunch of them more feel like they, some of them either want to go too topical to the point where it's going to date it quickly, or they want to make them too likable right off the bat. If you know what I mean.
I actually don't think either of those are the problem, but I'll tell you
No,
what the problem I
I'm
think.
saying if you're making them fresh. I'm saying if you're making it fresh for it. That,
Okay,
or
so
well, I had one more option. Or Do you already have enough villains that already exist with some of these type of powers? So like, why create new ones when you could just pluck them from someone else?
So here's my take: 6-issue arcs.
That too.
The big problem with modern comics and rogues galleries are 6-issue arcs. So let me put it this way: how many comics do you have in a year regularly? Are 12? You have 12
Mm-hmm.
books, so that means you have 12 comics for something. Maybe you have an annual, so you have
Mm-hmm.
about 13 books.
Yep.
Let's just say, well, we're going to go with 12.
Yep.
So you have a guaranteed 12.
Well, I want. They
So,
need to bring back those contracts. The the monthly contracts of being on a book where you were guaranteed it. And I think I remember someone saying this once in an interview on a Superman podcast, where basically they said like when you have those contracts where you are guaranteed on that book, you are feeling more secure. You're able to come. It usually guarantees you bring out better stories because you could actually plan things out.
yeah, no, like that actually helps a lot too. But the reason why 6-issue arcs are a big problem is that means if you have 6 chapters to tell one story, you're
Hmm.
only getting 2 stories a year
Yep,
max.
that too. That too.
Uh, so that means if you're making 2 stories, you're only getting 2 characters, two
Hmm.
villains, or 2 whatevers. Maybe
Yep.
you're lucky and you'll get a team,
Yep.
but you're only getting 2.
That's why I
And
would
that,
try and do. I would try to do 3 issue arcs or 4 issue arcs. So at least you're gonna get more
um,
done in a year.
honestly, and this is my most radical suggestion
Hmm.
for
Done
comics:
in ones.
bi-weekly.
Oh, that too. Oh yeah, look what happened with Flash.
I think comics should
Well,
start looking at a
mhm.
possible bi-weekly schedule, or at least major titles.
Oh yeah, again, look at what happened when you have Flash or whatever. To the point where I actually had Jeremy Adams on. He on my show. He said he's trying to convince DC to give him make it bi-weekly again, so he can get more done within a year. So because he has so many ideas he wants to do and not just take his sweet time waiting for
Uh,
it. So
24 issues a year gives you plenty of creators a lot more time to do stuff. 4-issue arcs, like honestly, I think comics should actually look into a
hmm
bi-weekly model. And I think it actually worked well for DC Rebirth, and I
yep.
actually think because a lot of people are like, why don't comics switch to just pure graphic novels?
Do you realize
And
how long that would take between volumes?
Uh, and I'll talk about this with them. The reason I think that those comics worked as well as they did was because the thing is that you have to be able to keep interest in the characters up, and if you have consistent material out, then you have stuff to talk about. So
Yep.
people don't lose interest. That way, it doesn't seem like the fandom's dead.
Yep.
It's
Hey, I will say this. One thing I will give about recent comics these days is there's been starting to be a bit more of an increase of creators being given long runs lately. Have you noticed that in the past few years? Like you
uh,
haven't had it in a while.
I honestly think that a lot of the long runs on stuff is that they're trying to make classic runs.
I know, like Joshua Williamson on The Flash, Donny Cates on Venom, Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk, Tom
Oh
King
god,
on Batman.
I actually really love the ending of Mortal Hulk. That was good. That was a good
Oh,
read.
that was that was a very good read from what I've read. And now, unfortunately, if there's one thing that's bumming me out, this whole Joe Bennett thing, I'm just the one thing. I think it's hurting its chances of getting a complete omnibus collection because they
I
don't want to give
don't.
them the royalties.
Who knows what the deal is with that? I don't know.
I know.
I
I'm just saying
think
because
that
I didn't buy. Unfortunately,
I
I didn't buy it because any of the issues because by the time the interest peaked for me, it was near the halfway point. I was not going
I
to do backpedaling.
that's perfectly fair. Look, either way, I no, I think they're actually trying to make a bunch of classic runs, and a lot of formulas have done that. Like about 50 issues, 75 maybe if you're
Hmm.
lucky.
Oh
Like
yeah. I mean, look,
there's
again, Tom King was doing that. You had, I mean,
well,
Robert Venditti taking over Jeff Johns on Flash. Look how long he lasted on Green, not Flash, Green Lantern. Look how long he lasted and how much he did.
I always wonder if we're ever going to get a Chris Claremont X Men
What was it?
run.
What was that? I didn't
I
understand that. What
always
was that?
wonder if I always wonder if somehow some way this modern era will end up creating a Chris Claremont X-Men run situation.
I never. I don't think it's ever going to get to that,
I don't think it'll
unfortunately.
ever get to. I don't think so.
Now,
I
again,
think it would
Williamson
be.
having a 101 issue run, that was already incredible. Well, more than that, if you add in his tie-ins to, because he did a majority, all but one issue of the crossovers with Batman. He wrote the Batman issues too. You
Okay,
have the,
so
yeah.
Low Spark Random has a question about Vertigo.
Oh,
Why?
there was Epic. There was the Epic comics Marvel did at one point.
Well, Marvel has a couple of them. There's actually, I actually consider doing a. I actually consider doing a history of Marvel's Vertigos, as it were. But let me actually talk about this. Vertigo. What made Vertigo good initially was a couple things. One, it had a strong editorial.
Oh, with Karen
Counter.
Berger especially.
Karen Berger. Now there were some duds in Vertigo. Like a lot of people don't remember the duds. I do.
I'm trying to throw some my way because I think I know ones you're talking about.
Dreaming is definitely one. That
Yep.
Sandman spinoff is absolutely dreadful. Um, there's oh god, American Virgin just completely
American,
faltered.
really. I've heard some people like that.
It's great till the ending.
Yeah. Oh, I will say this. Stephen T. Siegel. Keep him
I
away.
like him.
I would say keep him away from Superman.
Honestly, I love. Personally, I love his Sandman Mystery Theater stuff. He did
Oh no,
some
that
good
was
things.
fine, but you get what I'm saying. Keep him
Uh,
away from
but
Superman.
not every British, Irish, Scottish, right? Look, there was a lot of good Vertigo titles. Most of the longer lasting ones are pretty good, honestly.
But a lot of
The
times they
problem,
would have
so
stumbles of endings. Some of them, not all. Some have
so
stumble endings.
yeah. Look, some have issues like Shade the Changing Man. Stop at 50. Just, just stop at 50. That was the intended end. You don't have to go further. Don't you
Or
think?
now, what would you say about Doom Patrol? Like, I think Rachel Pollack's run was good.
Uh, I her run I consider a weirdly. I consider her supplemental, and I don't want. I don't want
How
to
else
be.
could you follow up Morrison? How could you follow up Morrison with anyone
I
but her?
can't. I stop. Like anytime I read that run, I just stop there.
At
I can't
Morrison's?
go. I can't go further. I've
All
tried.
right. Hey, that's fair.
Uh,
That is
uh,
perfectly fair.
that ending is too good.
And I agree. I agree that ending is too good. Yeah. And I mean, I always look at it as hers as the postscript season.
Look, I think of Rachel Pollack as an interesting look into it, and plus some of the drama behind that run is
Oh,
fascinating.
oh yeah. The fact that they had to they announced the collection and then they took it away.
Oh no, no, the drama with the artist is also fascinating, but I'm not going to talk
Oh
about it
really?
because that
Okay.
is.
I don't want to talk about
I,
that. Oh, you want to know
I,
one book that I did not expect to be as good as it was for 3 issues?
oh what?
We Three.
We three is fucking amazing.
Oh, I
Um,
know. I mean, if anyone here doesn't read it, why don't you just give a quick elevator pitch of what it is?
uh, so, okay.
Homeward Bound. I would say it's Homeward Bound if they were RoboCops.
Yeah. So, what do I think of the Young Animal imprint by Gerard
Hit
Way?
and miss.
Okay.
Hit and miss.
I'm gonna say this. Passionate. Okay. If imagine if a bunch of indie people let their fanboy out, and that's the Young Animal imprint.
And that's not a bad one because there were some good ideas like what was it, Mother
Honestly, you want to know the one I recommend to you? Have you tried out Bug?
Bug. Oh yes, I do have that.
Good shit.
Oh
I
yeah, and the
have a
fact that it ties in with the pre-New 52 timeline.
yeah, no. Bug is
Michael Allred.
yeah, Michael Allred. And I love it. It's a good one if you like that. So
I thought the Doom Patrol series itself was good. The fact that it actually continued where Keith Giffen left off surprised the hell out of me.
yeah, no, there's a lot of good
I,
stuff in that.
Have you noticed that? If you noticed that lately they've been decided, let's just pick up where the last one left off. They have not decided, not since Burn, have anyone decided to do a full reboot. Even though you keep thinking it's going to be a self-contained series, and you find out, no, it ties in.
Yeah, no, it's a good book. But there's good ones. I also enjoy parts of Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I remember that one.
Milk Wars is at least interesting conceptually.
Right.
Um,
Keep talking. I have to head to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Fair enough. I'll talk here.
Yep. Just hold down the fort. I'll be right back.
Well, I'm now alone and I am talking here, so time to read my comic manifesto. No, I will not do that to the people who are listening here. So, but no, I like aspects about Young Animal, but it definitely has we're fanboys of Vertigo and are trying to be it, and it has some good stuff to it, and I will say there's a passion there. But Gerard Way, he's very slow. He didn't get a lot of stuff off the ground. And yeah, I would kill for another Metalman series, at least by a good creative team. Because Metalman is one of those books that people have tried to make like a good adaptation of. And sometimes it works. Like the 90s Metalman series is, oh boy, that is a special series that I do plan on turning a new one into one day. At the very least, it's not the worst series ever, but god damn, trying to remake them that way was not the best idea. Not the best idea ever. Killing off gold and stuff. God, I really would love to talk about. Hello.
Series. I actually didn't mind the Dan DiDio written 12-issue series.
Oh wow, yeah, no, it's not a bad one either. Dan DiDio has some okayish comics.
Good stuff. Yeah. His Outsiders, crap.
Let's just not talk about. Look, I have an issue with him.
OMAC, good.
I have issues with his editorial, but some of his comics, I'm like, okay.
But hey, I want to see if I can stump you. See if there's a comic I've owned that I don't know if you've read.
Okay, let's see. I have all 3 volumes.
Oh, Godland. Man!
Yeah, Tom Scioli. I have a copy of
the guy's work.
I have a copy of American Barbarian.
I'm trying to get one, or I'm trying to still save money to get one of those. They're still on Amazon, thankfully, for the big ones. Also,
yeah, no. Yeah, I own that one. Look, dude, I'm a Transformers nut.
Oh, that's cool. But I would say this though, Scaloli, I think he's too much of a Kirby, one of the Kirby fanboys who just goes to ignoring details just to praise the man. I think if you read his Kirby book, I did not care for some of the one-sidedness of it.
Okay, let me actually talk about this. Honestly,
Oh, no. I'm a big Elseworld. I have almost every Elseworld.
I'll talk about the Elseworld shit in a second here. Let me just talk because I want to answer your question first about Tom Scioli. Right.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Here's the thing. I remember looking into it, and I remember it's like, oh, did Jack Kirby create Spider-Man? And I did my own fucking research into it myself, and that is a huge. Okay, so here's the thing. If we want to credit Jack Kirby as the creator of Spider-Man, we also have to credit Joe fucking Simon.
Mm-hmm.
And C.C. Beck.
Yeah. For inspirations, right?
No, okay. Let me explain this whole tangled web. I made a thread on it.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Look, it was a while ago, probably. Let me explain this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had to look up this because it's one of those great questions. Did Jack Kirby create Spider-Man? And I went as far as I could. So, as far as I could tell, there was a Spider-Man concept, but it was so different from what we know that I don't consider them the same concept. It's like the name.
Yeah, but that was the one that was pretty much like the shadow and all that, right?
No, let me explain. It started out as a character called the Silver Spider.
Yep, I remember that one. I remember that detail.
It was initially going to be a Shazam-like.
Oh.
And you're thinking of the Spider, who was
Oh,
another.
the Spider. Yeah, yeah, that was in a. Yeah.
Now, the initial concept was initially going to be Joe Simon and CC Beck. So they were
Mm-hmm.
the original creators and were developing it for MLJ Archie.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was that CC Beck had to drop out, so Jack Kirby was
Mm-hmm.
brought in. So they refined it, and eventually it became the Fly.
Right. Okay. And that wasn't that an art? Didn't that become an Archie character?
Yes, he's an Archie character.
Yeah, that's why I saw it.
Okay, so so at one point there was an attempt to call him Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
and then at Marvel, Stan Lee had an idea for a guy called Spider-Man, and
Yep.
initially went to Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby drew up some shit for it, and as
Mm-hmm.
far as I can tell, he might have developed two ideas for it: an uncle and
Mm-hmm.
maybe aunt or something, whatever, the
I'm
family.
basically not a parent, not mother and father. In other words.
Yes, and they were going to be like General Ross, so no kindly Uncle Ben.
Right.
So like very different there,
Right. Right.
and maybe web shooters.
All
That's
right.
that's all I got.
That sounds like a Jack thing. The shooters sound like a Jack thing.
That's a possibility. And again, but after that, Steve Ditko was asked to come up with his own thing, and Spider-Man, as we know him, came from that. So as far as I can tell, the closest Jack Kirby got to Spider-Man was that initial concept, and
And that cover, right? Didn't he do a cover?
he did a cover, but like Steve did the costume, Steve did
Mm-hmm.
everything else. So to me,
Yeah,
it's like,
seriously, I did find it funny. That was like a variant cover before there were variant covers because they never released it.
I said. So when Tom Scioli was like, Jack Kirby created Spider-Man," I'm like, dude, this is a lot more complicated than you think it is.
Yep, and don't get me started on the whole bit of Jack wanting to change swords. He's like, they basically the way they portray Stan's like, "Oops, sorry, we can't do it." It's like it's our most popular character. It's like they treat it and it's like your ideas were too good for them anyway. It's like, really, you got.
Look, it's frustrating.
That's what drives me nuts with some of the Kirby purists. I mean, the ones who are like that, who want to dump on Stan, even if they're holding back.
Look, let me put it this way. To me, it's like this. I think it's actually fair to criticize Stan on a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I'm not arguing. I'm not saying Stan didn't do nothing. I am not saying that at all.
Yeah, though to be fair, if I'm going to say who's the biggest monster, if people who read my Twitter know who I tend to bag on a lot.
Who's that?
Oh, Bob Kane.
Oh, yep. No argument there. The guy was scum when it came to using legal stuff to get around and keep.
Let me actually get to this question. Keep hearing that alternate Elseworlds realities are excuse to kill off main heroes.
No!
I don't necessarily feel that way all the time.
Now, pre-crisis, it actually was, but that was done that was the whole point of the alternate universes. So
honestly, what ifs tended to be like that to kind of enforce the status quo or.
Oh yeah, yeah. How many times did they come up with horrible endings that were what fans demanded? And it's like, oh yeah, we went your way. It would have been shit.
Sometimes, like a good example, there were examples counter to that.
Civil War. The Civil War one was a great one.
A good example, actually, to me is what if Elektra lived?
Oh, yep. The fact that is still a classic one, and that Frank did it. He did that one and gave us what could have possibly happened, and everything ended up good in the end.
Yeah, but the Watcher does imply a darker possibility to it. But again, still, it gave you like a taste of that. Mm-hmm. And there are other cases too, actually. Believe it or not, What If actually has my favorite Jubilee story in it.
Oh, which one? Is that the What If Wolverine, where he was more Is that when they were doing them more as Elseworlds, less What Ifs?
It's actually a later one where Sabretooth actually kills the X-Men and Jubilee's left, and Jubilee traps him in the Danger Room.
Yeah, that's the one when they were more Elseworld-ish.
A little bit, yeah. That was definitely
that was during 90s. That era where it was like, what if insert name.
Honestly, the most depressing what if Bruce Banner was the monster? Oh.
Yep, I remember that one. But I'll say this, Jubilee's also one of my favorites because through the cartoon is what got me into the X-Men. So Jubilee will always be my
Have
favorite. What?
have a special place. Yeah, no, perfectly
Yeah,
fair.
it definitely, and to the point where I collected a lot of her stuff when she became a vampire, and I was at least impressed that it didn't kill her like I was afraid of.
Yeah, and
But I'm at least grateful now she has her abilities back at everything.
yeah, no,
And the
that's
stuff
a
with her and Shogo, I love it.
oh, Shogo's fine.
And
That's
what do you think about pairing her up with Chamber? That was a weird pairing, but it somehow works.
look. Let me
When
put it.
Christina Strain is writing him anyway.
Look, let me put it this way. Chamber is a sad boy, and I'm just glad he has stability in his life. I'm just like, you do you, Chamber. Oh,
Oh
thank
yeah.
God.
Especially still knowing that he turned out he was connected to Apocalypse. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, that's such a fucking weird retcon.
Thank God they're ignoring that.
Well, I honestly think it's probably for the best on that one. But why was Wally West's life pain until Infinite?
Didio.
Like, I don't think there's any argument on that one.
Didio just did not like, does not, well, I wouldn't say he hates legacies per se, but he just, for some
he okay. So I think what the problem is that he got a craw of trying to get rid of a couple characters, and he never
Nightwing,
did.
especially.
Nightwing's one, and Wally West was a major one too.
Mm-hmm.
And it never worked out for various reasons. Okay, let me just actually. You couldn't really get rid of Wally West for one reason. A lot of the modern iconic Flash stories are Wally, and
yeah,
a lot of
the stuff that's been established in the Flash mythos came, besides Reverse Flash and all that, came from Wally. The Speed Force came from Wally.
You can't, like, even Barry's arch nemesis, Reverse Flash, best story versus
Return
Wally.
of Barry Allen.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
It's impossible to ignore.
Yep, and that's why I'm grateful that they have done both ways of fixing Wally, at least from Heroes in Crisis, by one, having it be that it wasn't his fault for the explosion, and two, it wasn't his fault for wanting to cover it all up.
Flash is a weird case of a character who lasted so long, but most of his good stuff is very modern.
Definitely.
It is such a weird case because, like, Spider-Man is very much a character where you can say that, I would say, up until the 90s, was a solidly foundational character.
So, to an extent, I would argue when Marv Wolfman took over, and that's when he introduced the whole Peter never catches a break, and unfortunately then set the tradition for people more having him have bad luck than good luck.
Look. I actually do kind of like Marv Wolfman's run.
Oh, no. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it got the ball rolling and people realized you could do that. And unfortunately, no one has stopped making Peter's life hell.
I'll say this. I think at least in the first, like, 375-ish issues, you're fine for the most part of, like, Spectacular and Amazing and all that jazz.
Then Aunt May died.
Look, once we get to Clone Saga, that's where we have to get.
But even then, no, I don't think the concept of the Clone Saga was a bad idea, especially given the place where Spidey was at that point. Come on, the Spider.
Look, I'll talk about the Clone. Look, the Clone Saga is a complicated mess of a lot of different factors that are just mind-boggling to think about.
But one thing I say is, why are they bringing Ben back when you have a movie coming up soon? Why are they putting Ben in the driver's seat when this is the prime moment to put more emphasis on Peter?
One reason. It's not about Ben being in the driver's seat. It's about the format.
True.
It's 3 issues a month. They're trying to get to 900.
That is true. That's very true.
That's really the focus. And here's the thing. As much as, like, Ben's in the driver's seat, if you look at solicitations, some are Peter escaping from the hospital. So at this point, it's a co-title. It's just Ben and Peter are just sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's clearly what's going on. It's what it's gonna be for a little while. And honestly, it's just Marvel, I think, trying to take advantage of. We're getting to the point of '90s nostalgia is becoming viable for Marvel and selling.
That's true. Instead of 80s, it's now 90s.
Yeah.
The 2000s JSA series. I loved it.
Uh, Dude, it's like one of the best series in the 2000s.
It is. And hey, you wouldn't be having Stargirl if it wasn't for it.
It's consistent. Okay. I'll say this. If you want to kind of get, so if you're going to read GSA, also read the '90s Starman
Yep,
series for the
yep,
love of
yep, yep.
God.
Because that leads into it at the starting point anyway. And read Stars and Stripes.
Yeah, and also read the '90s Hourman series. I know it's not technically essential, but I,
It helps. It helps.
I will die for that series.
I'm aware of it. I haven't read it in a long time, but I'm aware of it.
Oh, look, it's one of the cleaner Hawkman BSs. I can. Oh God!
Right.
I was actually asked, "Are you ever going to cover Hawkman?" And I'm like,
"Oh, good God!" I would say this about Hawkman. God, if someone was to ever do just a history of the character, God help them.
Oh God, no! I when I cover Hawkman, I'm trying to avoid talking about the snarl.
I have to agree with Mark Waid. Everything could have been avoided with just a few, 3 words, or a few, no, 4 words. A few years ago.
As he said it himself, it could have been avoided with a simple caption.
That's what I meant. The simple caption. A few years ago.
And actually, you don't even technically need to have it be a caption. You could have just. The problem is that they decided to set modern Hawkman in.
Well, when they have him appear in other books already right beforehand, but he's like, oh nope.
It could have worked if they just set it in the past, made it like some weird. But no, we had to have Wonder Woman and Hawkman be part of the.
At least Wonder Woman didn't appear beforehand after what was officially considered the start of the post-crisis.
Well, they actually did try to take care of that because it seemed like they were.
The Legend of Wonder Woman.
Well, Legend of Wonder Woman's was entirely a weird thing to an extent.
No, that was for the rights. That was just to keep the rights.
Oh yeah.
The rights retention.
Yep, rights retention, stuff like that. Kurt Busiek actually went on that on his Twitter about it.
But quick question: have you ever read this?
Yes.
What'd you think?
I liked it. I actually think it's the best Cage comic.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so. The fact it took so long for it to come out.
Look, like some people will have it because it's very cartoony, but I'll say this. I don't think there's ever been a solo Cage comic as good as it.
No.
And I know some people will be like, what about his... No, like, honestly, it has an artistic spirit. It's a good comic on its own. It's slightly periodic, but Cage is very goofy.
Oh, he is.
Like, I'm sorry, just accept he's a goofy character and just embrace it.
Exactly. And I do like it how you didn't get as much of the Gendy isms with like boom, 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 that whole thing, like, and as much as you would think.
Well, it's a comic; it has to be told differently.
I know, but he saved that for near the end.
Yes, I have read a lot of Naoki Urasawa. I have Pluto, 20th Century Boys, Monster.
I've never read those.
One of my favorite mangakas of all time. If I was going to recommend the best place to start with him, I would check out Monster.
Monster? I think I've heard of that.
Yes. Monster is probably his most... It has an anime adaptation, but the manga's good. Love it. If you want the shorter series to start out with, if you want to try them out, Pluto is probably the best. Pluto is a retelling of Astro Boy. Very great stuff.
I'll say this. You want to know what my favorite anime is, but it's so underrated? The Saber Marionette J series.
Oh man, I never hear about that series anymore. Like,
that is one of my favorites. I have you don't see it here, but I have the entire box set signed by the original creator, and I had it signed by Brad Swiley. And when he saw it, he was floored. He's like, "Whoa, what the heck is this?" Like, he was just so shocked. The only one that bothers me so much is why the hell did three different dubbing companies leading to three different casts?
Well, welcome to 90s anime licensing.
It was just so annoying. And the fact that the third one has almost very few people anyone's ever heard of. The only one I ever recognized from that third series cast was one of the actresses who played Lime, but that's because I recognized her from the Zoids cartoon anime.
Yeah, no, I remember that like a little bit. I had very little exposure to that series comparatively. I saw a couple episodes very randomly around. Mostly like, look, I grew up as very much a Toonami kid,
Oh,
so
so did I. Oh, so did I. In fact, I didn't find Saving Mary Net J until AMVs.
fair. I grew up with my Gundams.
Oh, Gundam Wing for me. That was my first.
Well, yeah, like Gundam Wing was also my first because I'm not gonna lie about it and be like, oh no, I didn't start
Wing
out with
Zero. Wing Zero is still one of my favorite mechs ever.
great mech. No, I'm a huge mecha boy. But I grew up, but like I got heavy in anime back in the day. Hell, I was
Oh,
actually
yep.
when I lived in other countries like Kuwait and stuff. I also got to see like, God, I remember it's like, wait a minute, I saw this on Kuwait. It was called Force 5 or something. And
Oh,
yeah, it was like a weird dubbing thing of different Super Robot anime, like Getter Robo and stuff.
yep.
And
Oh,
stuff like that.
yep. Another one I always loved. The Irresponsible Captain Tyler.
I have the DVD set signed by Crispin Freeman downstairs.
Oh, nice, nice. Because seriously, that is so. And the fact he tweeted, I sent out a tweet just praising about it, and he gave a response saying how he doesn't see, the way he sees it is that Tyler is basically the that whatever that word is for the flowing, just movement, just being.
Yeah,
Yeah,
goes with the
that's what he
flow,
is personified.
pretty much. No, yeah, no. I also have Johnny Young. I got his signature and Johnny Young Bosch's signature also on my Wolf's Rain DVD.
Ah,
Yeah,
Hurray Suzumiya. I love that one. That's an all-star cast.
very. Like I said, I when I was going to Otakon back in the day, I used to see all the voice actors I could.
Oh, I did when I went to Youmacon regularly.
Oh God, fuck. I always wanted to try and go to Youmacon, but anyway,
I'm in Michigan, so it's easy.
fair enough. People have talked about it, so like I
Right.
said, I'm down in Virginia, so it's always been like,
Ah.
yeah, uh, I'm down a bit south. Um, so
But yeah,
um,
but again, just there's just and you can only see a little bit of my bookshelf. I got so many right over here too. Over here, you see the stuff behind me. I just got so many mainstream indie stuff. I mean, heck, there's some books I get that I don't think some people would ever be interested in, like Frank Miller's RoboCop.
yeah, I have all 9 issues of that.
Yep. This is both 2 and 3.
Oh, fair enough.
Yep, and the fact
Actually,
that he had some great ideas that I wish were adapted. But of course, the funny thing you got to take into account is the second adaptation is the adaptation for the third movie is the script that was done. The character that died off in his adaptation of the second one is alive again because she didn't die in the second movie.
um, oh yeah, no. Okay, and according to this guy, according to Low Spark Ramen, the rogues need more respect, and I do agree. The rogues do need more respect.
Oh yeah, I think Williamson actually gave him a good amount of respect during his stuff.
Honestly, yeah, no, like the rogues are one of those cases of I actually think they're better than the Batman villains at this point.
Yeah, especially the likes of Cold and that, or like what Jeremy Adams just did with Heat Wave.
I actually, some people might be like, oh, but the Batman. It's like, look, I love the Batman villains, but a lot of them are starting to get very samey because they're trying to fit them all into the Arkham mold.
Mm-hmm.
And with the rogues, a lot of them are schlubs, and you can actually do a lot with schlubs in terms of
Yeah,
putting them into other directions. Flash is just has more variety at this point.
definitely. I
And
mean, and the fact that the only thing they have in common is they have abilities that can counter his speed if they hit
well,
him right.
and they also have an interesting factor of they can work together.
Oh yeah, the Batman rogues. Oh good God, you'd have to catch them on a good day, and even then, it's a matter of when they'll betray the other.
About 3 seconds average.
Definitely. And then you have some of the really obscure ones like Film Freak or Amygdala or Cornelius Sterch.
Yeah, but Jeff Johns deserves a lot of credit for reviving the rogues in the modern day.
Yeah, what did Mark Waid do? He killed them off.
Mark Waid had to do a lot of.
Now, to be fair, in his defense, he said he wished and he did that mostly because, if I remember right, it was more of a case of where he didn't understand the rogues that well.
Honestly, it's I think it was just a case of, look, a lot of at the time, a lot of comics were going through what I call shame writing of trying to get rid of all the goofy aspects.
Yep, but they still do that to this day.
Well, yeah, shame writing is a problem in comics.
Unless you have someone like Dan Jurgens who never shame writes. He never does.
No, like there are cases about that. Like there are some people who are just able to embrace shit very easily. Yeah. So, like I said, no, all the rogues could make a good villain movie.
Although now that Boomerang's dead.
Well, let me actually talk about this. One of the reasons I think Hollywood has trouble with characters like these because it's often they always want to make them personal, and they don't want to be like, no, they have to like have interpersonally connect and not just be like, it's just a job. One of the big problems I think, like, take Taskmaster in the MCU film.
Oh God, why?
Like they fucked up so hard with that.
Now, at least they leave it open if they wanted to, and I doubt they will, but if they wanted to, someone else could take it up and actually be closer to form.
Honestly,
I only see that. The only way I can see it happen is on a Disney Plus series. I can never see that happen in a movie.
Oh, let me actually say this. It was bad enough the writer had to respond to the backlash. And the MCU movies don't tend to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the most I've ever seen was someone, it's usually after the fact, and usually saying, like, I didn't know that much. Like, when people are complaining, saying, oh, why didn't they have Mephisto? I don't know who Mephisto is.
Yeah, whatever, bro.
But even I'm like, we don't need Mephisto in the WandaVision.
But anyway, but yeah, this is a question. Do they overuse Joker? It depends.
Depends, but at least I always give them props. When they realize they've overused him, they usually give him a bang and then take him off for a while.
My issue with the Joker is not so much they overuse him, but what version of him they overuse.
I gotta say thank you, Jeff Johns, for 3 Jokers to actually sum them up into at least 3 versions.
Well, the problem with it is that they don't make the Joker a pure agent of chaos, because honestly, they keep using the same Joker over and over again of like
the Killing Joke and the Killing Joke era.
Well, basically, it's like this. It's like, okay, you have the Joker, and it's like, what? He's unpredictable. You can't predict him. It's like, no, he's just going to do the fucking worst thing. It's always the worst thing. And if you can think of the worst thing, you can probably predict what
I miss issues like when you had him in Paul Dini's run. Just that one issue he has, I think, Robin in a taxi, and he's just driving him around and all that.
Oh, yeah, like, it's good stuff. And my whole point about it is, it boils down to this, is that I just think that he's, like, as long as, like, you can come up with a good story, or at least a good hook, you should be able to do stories like The Laughing Fish with him.
Yeah. Or, like, another one that I would love is, and the fact is, it's a story that he didn't do much in it.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It is one of my favorite Joker stories.
Like I said, the Joker is a fine character, but the problem with him is not so much that they overuse him; it's just the fact that like they keep having him do the same shit.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a different question. You're going to answer this after you finish. Okay. What is your favorite alternate universe version of a character? Any character.
Any character. Oh, Fucking A, that's actually
Because for me, it would have to be one of mine would definitely be Vampire Batman.
Vampire Batman. That's a good one. I'm gonna. This one's a little weird, but I'm gonna do Superman's Secret Identity.
Oh, that's a good one. What did you think about um
Creature of the
the
Night.
yeah, Creature of the Night?
Love it. Good story. It's a good sequel. Not as good as Secret
Well,
Identity.
more of a good spin-off or spiritual successor.
Look, I put them next to my next together on my shelf. Whatever. Like I
know,
get
I know.
Like,
But I would say though my all-time favorite elsewhere period though would have to be Superman Batman Generations.
that's a good one. Actually, I can't believe I forgot about this one for a second. Spider-Man Life Story, actually.
Oh, that is so good. But I do not like the Fantastic Four one.
Look, I'm not going to talk about the Fantastic Four today.
Oh, you're not a fan either?
Look, I'll say this. If you don't see me talking about a comic sometimes, that is all you need to hear.
Ooh, not a Mark Russell fan?
Look, I gave it a shot. I gave him a attempt. And my God. And
the moment he actually had it be, oh, Sue does leave for Namor, I'm like,
no. If I was a fucking editor of that book, I would just say, oh, you're having her leave read for Namor. Oh, great. How original. Never seen that before. Well done.
Say what you will, but and with the Spider-Man one, you never knew what was coming.
Here's my big problem with that fucking book. Spider-Man kept to its premise.
It did. It still kept enough that it matched stories that had, much like Superman Batman Generations, at least the first one. The story that happened during those decades somewhat happened.
But here's the problem with Fantastic Four Generations.
Oh, you mean Life Story.
Sorry. Life Story. The problem with that fucking one is that it wants to just focus on the first 100 issues of Kirby.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You could make a great Fantastic Four life story because there's a lot of weird stuff that happened. You can do
but you can't stretch it out over those decades.
No, just do it. Like, look, you have a perfect breaking in point with the Fantastic Four in the 90s.
Yeah.
There's so much you can do. Like, oh, wow, I can't believe I brought up the Fantastic Force. That is such a weird thing. But, again, my point being is that you can do this story very easily. Just embrace all the Fantastic Four. Don't be like...
Wow, I really got you going.
Look, I think here's my problem with it. It's fucking wasted potential.
Exactly. It should have been Chip doing it again.
Well, not even just Chip. Somebody who's willing to, do all the decades. Not just
exactly.
give it... Look, because here's the thing. You're like, well, I don't want to do the weird Steve Englehart stuff. Fuck, do the weird Steve Englehart stuff. Make it interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't think there's any other good creators. It's you got Walt Simonson.
What? Oh, that was a great one. That was a great run.
Yeah, nobody talks about the Walt Simonson run.
It's like someone wanted to do the Thor run, but they make everything all about the Simonson run stretched out over the different decades. Why? Oh, because I don't want to do Tom DeFalco.
Oh, Tom DeFalco's not even that hard. Like, honestly, Tom DeFalco's easy. All you gotta do is just chop it down.
Well, to be fair, I understood what he was going for a lot of his runs. I still say his best was Spider-Man. He was always best with Spidey.
No, his Thor run is... here's the thing. It's not a complete misfire, but it's definitely more in between.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this. I think he should not have kept Thor off the table for as long as he did.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Masterson is not the worst character ever, but he he really, I think the fact that he kept Thor himself off the table was not the best solution. And I honestly think that it caused a lot of issues, but whatever. Like, I'm not here to talk about that run tonight. That's honestly, I figured I had to talk. I am probably going to talk about that run in a thread at some point because a lot of people think that it justifies the Thor mantle change when
Mm,
that whole thing is a whole
I
like.
do not say it justifies it. In fact, I would say this. You know what I would say about Jason Aaron's run? He takes a lot from Dan Jurgens' run.
Honestly, the problem I have with the Jason Aaron run is that he kind of just wrote himself into a heavy corner, and he just never found a good way out of it.
Right, but would you agree with what I just said? Oh, he took a lot from Jurgens' run.
Jurgens' run, he took a lot from yeah, no, like I agree on that one. I'll
Because
say
yeah, I mean,
like
you had Lady Thor. You had him doing these dark gods and everything. You had Thor becoming king.
he basically went through the entire arc again, and I'll say this: it's like it did well to an extent, but
And I will say
whatever.
this: I give me. And I will still say this: I will defend Lady Thor's existence. I would never defend Riri's existence because Riri was one of those first mantle changes that had no story to tell that it needed the mantle change for. It was just done for the sake of a change.
Riri Williams fascinates me purely on a conceptual. Oh my god, how can you fuck up a character?
I mean, am I wrong with what I just said? It's just like you see what all mantle changes beforehand usually had a story behind it. Even Lady Thor had a story used for it.
Well,
Riri had none.
the problem with Riri Williams is I feel like Bendis wanted to do Miles 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
And one
Yeah,
of the reasons
but let's say one other thing. The other thing that bugs me about it is that you had so much of it. When I'm making it very clear, nope, Tony's never coming back. Never coming back. It's Riri permanently now. That I see.
oh
Yeah.
that was already torpedoed with Secret Empire around because Secret Empire is hilarious because of what they had to do to write Tony in on that. It's just
Oh, good God, today. And just so you have Hank eventually tell him off in a spectacular fashion.
yeah. Mhm. Um yeah, so yeah. Oh, and on the topic of rogues, the first run of Flash Volume 2 is weird. While you get to Pulp Sidekick, he's rich and poor, Chunk and many loves. Okay, yes.
That was the creator's intent. He thought that he should have it, and then once you had who came on after him? That was William Mr. Lobes, and he
well,
decided I'm going to take his last girlfriend and have her be his only girlfriend.
well, Linda was actually not meant to be his only girlfriend.
Oh
It was
no,
actually
I know. He was just supposed to be one of more, but then Lobes decided to keep it, if I recall.
what happened was that he just got very comfortable writing her and just never got rid of her.
True.
It's just funny. What happened with the first thing about Flash Volume? You have to understand with Flash, it was post Crisis, and they had to figure out a lot of shit with the character. For
So
one
yeah,
thing,
so they had to be like, okay, fast metabolism, which has stuck to a degree, just not to the extent they win. Make him rich. Well, how else is he going to be able to have money to support him?
yeah. Well, the whole thing with it is that the entire Before Wade stuff is trying to figure out where to bring it, and some of the changes were also brought about by the Flash TV show as well, like the
Oh
costume
yeah,
change.
definitely. Which
Like a
that
lot
one
of people,
I would not complain about because that actually did help.
look the costume change. Look, that is a fucking great costume.
Oh yeah, why do you think they brought it back?
Yeah, basically. Look, you're not gonna look. You're not messing with that costume. That's a good one. But no, the run they had to figure out a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff in that run. Mark Waid actually says it has his favorite Flash issue in it, which is Wally West is thrown from an airplane.
What can you do when you're in midair and nothing to run on?
Well, as Mark Waid has said, the best Flash story is you put the Flash in a situation, and he has to figure out how he uses his powers to get out, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
You know
Of course, if I remember, doesn't he do the whole make a tornado thing to get him out of it?
Yeah, like how slow down and stuff. And it's a very tense issue. My personal favorite is actually one of Mark Waid's one, which is he wrote it in a Justice League Quarterly issue, and
Mm-hmm.
it's Flash is stuck in a glass elevator, and someone's about to be assassinated, and he's seeing it in slow motion, and he has to figure out how the fuck to get out of that glass elevator.
Oh
Really
yeah,
great.
for me, one of my favorite would be the end of Return of Barry Allen, the whole Wally versus Reverse Flash.
Oh yeah, good shit.
But I would say though, I think Williamson has really come up with some real great ideas to make Eobard such a bastard, more than even Jeff Johns ever did.
Oh god, yeah. Well, like I said, there's a lot of great stuff for Flash, honestly. Like,
Oh yeah,
and
Flash has become one of my favorites and all that. Just like I'll be honest, when it came to Hulk, I got into Hulk was Greg Pak's run.
Hulk is kind of a weird thing for me. I'm on. I was honestly all over the place until one day I just decided, fuck, I'm just gonna read the entire Peter David run, which is
Oh,
10 years of comics. It's good.
and
I
then
actually like it.
and still cut off at the knee, and still ended too soon.
Well, weirdly enough, yeah. But it has a great.
All because they wanted him to interact more with the Marvel universe, and he said no. And unfortunately, that was around the time he had a divorce,
Uh,
so he wasn't having any of it.
Actually, no, that was not the reason why he left.
Oh, why?
He was actually doing a lot. They wanted to bring back the Savage Hulk
That's what it was. Bring back the Savage Hulk. That's what it was. Sorry,
because
it was more bring back the
Peter
Savage Hulk.
David had no problem interacting with the Marvel universe.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was mixing that up. I was mixing it up with a different writer. I meant to
Oh,
say, yeah, they wanted the Savage Hulk back, and he flat out refused because it's like, what's like? I gave you a year of a Hulk without Banner.
like what you guys like? Well, the problem is with like he brought it up is that the Hulk, they wanted like the Hulk to return to his roots, and I guess it was kind of one of those things that had to happen at some point.
Right.
But at the same time, the reason his Hulk run worked at all was because it wasn't the cliche stuff that Hulk was running into at the time.
Well, no, you had
And
Professor Hulk, which has always been my favorite point of his run.
Professor Hulk's great. Joe Fixit era is fantastic. Again,
Well, oh, I
like
loved it. I loved how that started. You had Al Milgrom did it, then they brought Peter David on, but then they're like, "You want us to put it back?" He's like, "No, leave it. Let me figure out what to do with it."
yeah, no, that's a great.
It's like he
That's a
didn't have
great.
a plan. He just said, "Let me figure it out."
Like honestly, all good stuff.
Although
Uh,
the fact that you can take into account his run could have ended a lot sooner, very too soon, if after the whole Betty getting an abortion thing.
yeah,
Oh no
basically.
no 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 miscarriage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that almost made him leave.
Again, there were a lot of stuff there, but it's a huge run and a very interesting run.
And
But yeah, no,
I think Paul Jenkins was kind of like once you had Byrne leave, when Paul Jenkins took over, it felt like the Robert Venditti to Peter Davis, Jeff Johns was Green Lantern. It felt like he was picking up what he had done.
honestly, Paul Jenkins. I think Paul Jenkins is one of the underrated Hulk creators.
Mm-hmm.
Total,
And give
mostly
us Double
because
Hulk.
Devil Hulk, but he also just put in a lot of work that was decent. And honestly, I also am a big defender of Paul Jenkins' Spider-Man run. That
Oh
was
yeah! Oh hell yeah! Hell yeah! Especially the stuff he did with Venom during the start of Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 2.
yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of his Peter Parker Spider-Man stuff. The one-off issues he did were
But you
just
want to know one Paul Jenkins story that I think, and I don't know if you're gonna like it, but my one that I really like, Wolverine the End.
it's solid. Okay, it's not the
I
worst.
want the brother, but I want his brother to actually exist in the mainstream timeline.
I'll say this: my issue with, honestly, it's probably the best origin sequel.
Better than Origin 2?
uh, Probably, yeah. Honestly, I don't think you need an origin too.
I mean,
So,
that wasn't shit. I will say that that wasn't shit per se. It just was not needed.
well, my whole thing is I think origin was not needed in general.
Oh no,
And
well,
that,
you do know why that was made, though, right? They had no choice because
oh,
Hollywood basically made it clear: give it an origin, or we will come up with our own.
there's that to an extent. But actually, I heard from it. Joe Casey did an interview with Perch recently about it, where to an extent it was not just that. They're also looking over to see what sacred cows they could tip over. And that was
Oh,
one of them.
really? That sounds like Joe Quesada right there.
Yeah, and that was apparently one of them. And, like, do you want to know who was offered to do it?
Who?
Basically, every major Marvel writer at the time. Grant Morrison was offered it.
Let me guess, most of them refused?
Oh, yeah, basically almost every one of the major ones. Paul Jenkins was the one who said yes.
And I say he did a good job, but I will say this. If there's one reason why I would say I think his brother does exist, how has he explained the scars on his mother's side?
Well, honestly, my issue with Origin is more it honestly takes away from the appeal to Wolverine to me. And now there's huge debates on this. What do I think of modern
Constantine? I have no qualms. Modern Constantine, I have no qualms with him with the way how he's currently handled.
I have issues to an extent. Okay, let me actually talk about this. He's one of those characters who is so definitively put into my mind as a character that if you don't do him exactly right, I'm going to hate it. And
okay, what about, would you say the Hellblazer, the recent Hellblazer Black Label? What'd you think of that one?
I thought it was okay.
So you didn't hate it, at least. All right.
I didn't hate it. Admittedly, I was more mad at the fact that they made an all ages John Constantine. Because who the fuck wants that?
What?
Yeah, didn't you know this was a thing?
Oh, yeah, the YIGN with him and Zatanna, I think.
Yeah, and it's written by the guy who did Squirrel Girl.
What?
Yeah, Ryan North.
Jesus.
So, believe me, look, if John Constantine isn't a blonde dude who looks kind of like Sting and smokes, I don't.
And is completely bisexual. I do like that about him being an openly bi.
I don't need it.
You don't need it, but I do like that's a fact about him.
I do like it, but personally, to me, it's like it's John. I don't necessarily want the story to focus on romance.
Oh no. Me neither. Even with stuff with him and Zatanna, I'm always like, if there's no one else, he's the only one I could see her getting together with. But I'd rather come up with someone else for Z than John.
No, with John, it's like this. I just want him to. It's one of those. He's one of those characters where, unless I feel like they're getting right, snarky bastard. Like, I remember the original pilot, for the Constantine TV show, and how they tried to give him this female sidekick.
Kind of like the movie.
Oh yeah, they always try to be like, and it's like, look, I know you're trying to be like, we're trying to make John more like him. It's like, no, you just need John.
Just have him be a bastard. Have him be a bastard.
Look, John's perfect. You don't really need to mess with him. The thing is, it's that he's a character with a perfect formula, and just run with that formula.
And that's one thing I always loved about the story that never was the the Alan Moore one, Twilight of the Superheroes, where he gave up having his true love because doing so somehow would have led about to.
Yes, need Chas at least.
Yeah, but would you agree with that? I would feel like that made it clear he's never going to find his true love, because if he does, it's going to bring about the end of everything somehow.
Yes, of course.
And that's what I feel. In my mind, that's always going to be in my mind. He can never find true love.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, it was Wolverine the End. I liked a lot of those the end stories, but that one I always feel like it's dumped on so much. But you got to take into account the whole point of it was Origin gave questions, gave answers, so he figured the end should just end with never answered questions. Honestly, the end is fine. It's not the worst one, honestly.
Oh no, it's not the worst. It's not the best though either. That will still be Hulk the End.
Hulk the End is
that's a masterpiece.
Every The End series basically has to bow to that one.
Exactly. And now Punisher at the end was a very good one too.
Punisher is the nihilistic Garth Ennis love child, and I
Yeah.
love
Now here, let me ask this: which do you prefer as the ending for Fantastic Four? The Fantastic Four: The End by Alan Davis and Mark Farmer, or the last Fantastic Four story by Stan Lee and John Romita Jr.?
it. I'm
That's a tough
probably
one, isn't it?
I'm probably gonna go with I'm probably gonna go Stan Lee and John Romita, and the reason why is on
It
some
felt like a
level that's
send off. It felt like a send off.
it felt like a send off, and also it feels better with one of the original creators on it.
Yep.
Honestly,
And I will just say this: the Mutant War is what kills any interest, because you know what, I'm convinced why they did the Mutant War for the Fantastic Four: The End. One, to limit the character palette, but two, I think they want an excuse to get rid of Quicksilver from Crystal so they can pair her up with Johnny.
oh, probably something like
I
that.
think that's what they're like. They killed everyone else off so they can kill off Pietro.
Look, to be fair, Pietro's respect in the Marvel Universe has an interesting history that I have covered before. Uh, like he was one of Marvel's bottom tier characters officially,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not even kidding. They had a document on who's important, and Pietro was at the bottom.
Beneath guys like Hercules back when he was obscure.
Uh, let me actually find it, and I'll read it off to you. Quicksilver.
I mean, I'll just say this. I count Spider-Man Reign as a Spider-Man The End, just like I count the Captain America The Fallen, or whatever it was, as a Captain America The End, because it was originally supposed to be.
Yeah. Let's see.
Our manga is more popular than comic. I don't want to get into that one, because I think people... The funny thing is, whenever I see people talk about mangas and how better they are, they're always talking about the mainstream stuff. I'm well aware of a lot of other mangas that are still obscure, and people do not talk about those. And it's like, guys, are you forgetting the stuff from the 90s that was also popular at the time? No, because you're only talking about the mainstream stuff.
So I've talked about it with people before, and I'll just always bring this up. One, what manga we get in the US is the mainstream picks that
Exactly.
people care about.
That's
You're
what I'm saying.
You're actually not reading a lot of the shit that gets published.
That's what Perch says, and I agree with him on that.
And you are actually most of the time reading stuff that is very carefully selected, and it's fair to keep that in mind. It makes it seem honestly better than it is sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's like, look, at the very least, always keep that in mind. There's always winners and losers. With American comics, you're able to read them at any time and read the translated stuff.
And yet, I'm pretty sure when it comes to those comics going to other countries, it's the same way in reverse with the manga.
To an extent, yeah. But the thing with manga and there's a lot of different stuff in the industry on how it gets it done. Like, one thing about it is that manga also just has more room to tell its story nowadays.
Oh yeah, and they have a plan. Usually, they have a planned ending. Usually, I'm looking at you, case closed.
Actually, manga doesn't tend to have planned endings. Some do, but we're not gonna.
Oh, no, like I said, I look at case closed as a prime example.
Look, case closed is one, but here's the thing.
One Piece. I don't think ever has an ending.
Look, the mangaka is going to end it eventually. At this point,
yeah.
Talked about.
Well, it happened before. It happened before. The last manga boom. Do people forget it died out?
But the whole thing with manga being more popular than comics is that right now, here's the truth. It technically, a lot more manga is popular, and that's fine. I really have no issue with it.
Yep.
A lot of the things with comics is that, here's the thing.
It's not the political stuff people want to claim as the reason.
A lot of the problem is with comics and how it's popular is that the reason comics don't sell as well, they're in the direct market, and a lot of people aren't willing to talk about that or the issues with it, and that's really the case. And here's the thing, a lot of people don't know how to value comics because a lot of these companies, they want to focus on movies. They think movies are a big thing. And that's a lot of the problem, too.
I say focus on video games. That's the big thing when you look at the price points.
Yeah, and honestly, but okay, just because we're fun here, I want to do this because, all right, so Marvel made a list of very important characters.
Right.
Okay,
When was it? How far back was this?
this was the 70s, so like 72. It was a 72 internal memo. Okay,
Yep.
so now they listed with stars, which are 3 stars are very important. 2 are important, and then we have 1 star. Not very important.
And 0 stars, I bet, right?
No, none of them are 0 stars.
Okay, that's good.
They didn't hate Quicksilver that much. Okay, so we have the Fantastic Four. Now
in the 70s, I could see that being one of their most important. Yep.
3 stars across the board, except for the Invisible Woman, who is only 2, but still important. You know,
I find that insulting.
Oh, look, dude, I know. I'm sorry.
I love Sue. She's my.
Look, this was 1972.
Right.
Look,
You're right.
at least she got 1 star.
Oh, good God, yeah. Would they probably be like, oh, do we have to make her Malice?
Okay, now this is where it gets funny. Okay, so then we have Thor, who's 3 stars.
Okay.
That's fine, right? 3 stars?
Right. 3 stars. Oh, yeah. Especially, yeah.
Now, the next person to have 3 stars is gonna, like, tilt your head a bit. Doc Savage.
What?
Yeah, Marvel licensed him back in the 70s.
Okay, I can see. You know what? I can see that's why they have it as a license. They want to make sure they get everything they can out of it while they have it. All right.
Now the next character, 3 stars, is Captain America, and him, because he's part of the title, was Falcon at 2 stars, which is fair.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Back in the 70s, that's fair.
2 stars is Shanna the She-Devil.
Okay.
Now I need to point out this: Shanna the She-Devil is 2 stars. Okay, so Spider-Man is of course 3 stars.
Of course.
The Hulk, 3 stars.
Yeah.
Now we're at the Avengers.
Uh-oh.
All right, Hawkeye, 2 stars.
Okay.
Scarlet Witch, 2 stars.
Oh boy, I think I know where this is going.
Vision, 2 stars.
Okay, Wanda and Vision, of course.
Black Panther, 2 stars.
All right.
Black Knight, 2 stars.
Okay. Hercules,
2 stars. And
wait,
the last
was this pre or post Layton's run?
1972. I think
that's definitely pre Layton.
So, and the last one, Quicksilver, 1 star.
Out of everyone on the Avengers, he's the only one with a 1 star.
Yes, everyone else. And oh my God, do you know who has more than him?
Who?
Cole, Werewolf by Night, Ant-Man, the Wasp, Red Wolf, the Beast.
Okay, Beast.
He's at yes.
Red Wolf. I don't even know who Red Wolf is.
Yes, the entire Inhumans all have 2 stars.
What?
Daredevil and Black Widow. Daredevil has 3.
Okay.
He shares 1 star with. Oh wow, Warlock has 2 stars, and Man-Thing. Good for them.
But who else has 1 stars?
The Watcher, the Ringo Kid.
Okay, Watcher for the Watcher at a 1 star. What the hell?
And for the old Ghost Rider, the Western one, nobody talks about, who isn't the Flaming Skull dude.
Unless you look at the movie.
Look, anyway. But yes, Quicksilver was rated 1 star back in 1972.
Why? Wow, wow. So, what, do you think them marrying him up the crystal was more to make him relevant?
I honestly, oh no. It was, I actually think it was just get her out of the Fantastic Four title.
No, that's true too.
And they were like,
And I'll be honest. I don't hate. Look. I don't hate Johnny and Crystal together, but I'm a bigger fan of Johnny and Elijah.
and that's a definitely more interesting pairing.
And I love that from the MC2.
And honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest with Crystal, she's been written so horribly over the decades that, oh boy, yeah, no.
Yeah. But I do also like it that, given her abilities, really, she is the only one who can calm Pietro down.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Because I can't think of anyone else. I think he would have gone villain long ago if it wasn't for her.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a whole.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start wrapping it up. Actually, dude. I do thank you for coming on, though, and I wouldn't mind having you on again.
Definitely, I wouldn't mind doing that. I might not be always available, but I can try to.
Right.
I can always try and make it here. Okay.
Oh, Superman, Batman Generations. We already talked about that. Loved it.
Well, I think you may be on the different generations. You know, there's 3 of them. So the first miniseries, solid stuff.
Yep. Oh, my friend Eric heard me mention Crystal. Yep, mentioned Crystal. But yeah, the first one was good. Second one filled it in. Third one was the weakest.
Third one is Cuckoo Crazy John Byrne time.
And then you have Batman Captain America. That counts because of the ending.
It's essential to it. I think it's honestly one of the funnier. Look, it has one of the funnier Joker bits.
I know. I may be a lunatic, but I'm an American lunatic.
I gotta admit, the fact that, look, honestly, a lot of people are like, "Oh, why is Joker patriot?" It's like, no, it's funny because guess what? He was gonna betray the Red Skull at some point, and that is just his fucking, and that's his fucking excuse.
Exactly.
And that's what makes.
But that look on his face, though, when he finds out he's wearing for it now, he's like, I think he's more ticked off at the fact that he got played by a Ramsey like that.
Oh, basically, and that's one of the reasons. It's a good bit.
Yep, and it's hinted at in Superman Batman Generations 2.
Yeah, so I'll say this: skip Generation 3 unless you want to go on John Byrne's crazy Cocoa Puff ride.
And see Superman and see Batman banging Superman's granddaughter, and Superman and Wonder Woman apparently off screen, and you're having some Superman get together with Dreamer, and it was a Dreamer of the New Gods, I think.
Like Beautiful Dreamer, yeah.
Beautiful Dream and all that. It's like, of course it was it. And then you have a resurrected Darkseid who just goes batshit insane with this convoluted time travel stuff of, oh, we're sending people back in time, but because of how it works, those who are in the past are going to be doing them for the first time. So going forward for them, things are going on, but the people coming back are well experienced, even though they're losing forces.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this with all that jazz, like, it's a crazy time, but I recently just read, oh god, you know that, like, literally John Byrne has made his own fan comic for the X-Men.
Yep.
That's like 23 pages. Like, oh my god, it is insane.
Oh yeah. Then, I mean, now to be fair, it's sometimes better than a lot of the X-Men books that are out.
It's kind of crazy that it exists. Like, I was like, wait, John
He's
Byrne...
He's not making money off of it, I think. I think it's a case where he's not making money, he's not selling it.
I heard it might be a commission thing, but I'm not sure.
Well, if it is a commission, though, then that's still someone's paying him to make it, but that's as far as it goes.
Look, I'm not faulting the man for making it. I'm just kind of like, I'm just shocked that it even exists as a concept. And I'm not making Besides, I'm not making like an account on John Byrne's message board. Are you crazy? I would get
Oh
banned.
hell no! I would not be able to keep it up there that long.
I would get banned like in a minute by just not posting anything to upset the Byrne man.
Good God, that guy had before a lot, but at the same time, but I remember there was an interview he did a while ago on the Marvel channel. Wasn't that bad? Show that I think he has chilled out compared to his earlier years.
To an extent, yeah. Like I imagine he has.
For him to be able to do something on a Marvel YouTube channel, it says a lot.
Oh my god! You just reminded me. I should really, at some point, I should check out his Star Trek photo comics and review them.
Oh yeah, the photo comics.
No,
by the way,
sir.
what have you been thinking about have you read the Star Trek mirror stuff they've been doing lately?
Oh, okay. Hold it. Somebody asked this question, and since it's the last one, I might as well answer it because I know the answer to this one.
First, I blame Quesada for initially. I blame Quesada because he's the one who really amped up the whole "we must never work together" until he had no choice but to having that contract done for JLA Avengers, and then after that, he's just
No. What happened was this. He insulted DC Comics to their face, and Dan DiDio got pissed.
Oh.
That's what happened.
Except for JLA Avengers, neither one of them could control that one, right?
And Joe Quesada actually did this because you have to understand, if you actually look at it totally, Marvel didn't do a lot of crossovers after he came along. He kind of made it a thing to
even though Bendis wanted to. Bendis totally wanted to.
A lot of creators did because, look, let me put it this way. Marvel, like, he came from a very... you have to understand Joe Quesada's perception as a creator is that he came from Wizard magazine to an extent. And a lot of the opinions of Wizard filtered through Joe Quesada to an extent. And not all of them were good. A lot of them... Well, for one thing, let's talk... For one thing, we could talk about one more day, but I could go...
I'm still annoyed that Spencer didn't undo... I thought... Here's what I thought with Spencer. I thought he was going to at least restore the memories. He wasn't going to bring back the marriage, but I thought he was going to restore the memories.
I actually put my bets pretty safely on, okay, look, we're going to get an acknowledgement, and he did. And that's why...
I never expected him to give us a reason why Mephisto did, which is something that it turns out One More Day did need. What was the point of it? Now we know.
Well, honestly, one aspect about it is that at the end of the day, he retconned the story everyone thought was retconned since past. Oh, Jesus, you don't know. Anyway, but the reason like Marvel didn't do crossovers for a long time was that Joe Quesada just put a stop to it. He thought they were too fanboy. He wanted to see modern, and you have to understand, a lot of what Marvel did after 2000s was with Bill Jemas and Joe Quesada trying to be the hip, cool comics people. Mm-hmm. And like they tried to be very anti-classic Marvel books. If you look at what happened with Thunderbolts is a good example of what they tried to do with it. Another example is they just really hated the original version of the Avengers.
Oh yeah, that's why we got New Avengers.
Not just New Avengers, Ultimates. The reason Ultimates wasn't called Avengers was that Joe Quesada was trying to make a thing about like, oh, Avengers sounds old hat. And that's actually one of the reasons why Kurt Busiek...
Oh yeah, because he thought that they were... He was one of those who kept thinking, that was the rumors and everything, that they were going to phase out the mainstream and go to make everything Ultimates.
Not actually. As Kurt Busiek said it himself on his Twitter, he caught off it for this reason. Mm-hmm. If they were going to diss his run despite it selling so well, then why is he there?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big problem with perception. And it's like Joe Quesada was always like, I have to have it my way, and he would go off in these weird tangents like, oh God, there's a Spider-Girl. What if I made my own Spider-Girl? People will love her. Here, have a
And the funny thing is, what did then Dom DeFalco do? I'm going to bring her to my own universe and make her an actual character.
Hold it. No. There's this whole thing. And it's like a whole thing here. Okay, it's like this. When Spider-Girl was created, it was going to be a 12-issue series. It was popular. her, and now she's the only Marvel heroine has broken 100 issues.
Oh, yep,
No
well
other
over a
Marvel,
hundred.
no other Marvel heroine ever has broken that number straight.
Unless you add them all up,
Look, we're not.
like She-Hulk did.
Look, I understand that, but 100 straight issues.
Yeah, 100 straight issues. Yeah, because fans. This is back when fans, and I've mentioned this more recently. People keep on acting like yelling at walls is going to make changes happen. No, you have to know how to play the marketplace. And good God, did the MC2 fans know how to play the marketplace?
Oh no, they did. Anyway, so what happened was, so what happened after that whole thing? They ended up creating these, Anyway, so like that's what happened. And Joe Quesada didn't like the title because Peter Parker's old in it, blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Even
So
though he would then claim, "Oh, I don't hate it." Yeah, you did.
yeah, no, and then he would be like, "Okay, here's my version of Spider Girl," and nobody liked her, or at least he tried to make her thing, and she just never took off in a major way, which I feel sad about because the last volume they did with her as a lead was by Paul Tobin, and he's a good writer, like a solidly good writer. But oh my god, he was given like shit.
Yep. And then now you have Spider Gwen.
And that's a whole other tangent. But yeah,
Yep.
no.
Or you have the Anna. You have the Anna. The Renew Your Vow with Spider Girl, which I don't hate.
She's fine. Like
That's why I liked having the two of them meet during Spider-Geddon.
Like I honestly have no problem with her. But yeah, no. But like I said, I like aspects about it. It's just it is what it is. So.
Yeah, but like I said, I gotta start wrapping up. So again, thanks for coming on, man. It was great just chewing the shit with ya.
Yeah, fair enough. And if you want me on a specific topic, feel free.
Oh yeah. I prefer these random rambles anyway, just jumping around. I think that's the most fun.
Yeah, and hell, if there's any like weird Q&As people want me to answer, I'm always happy to help. Or at the very least, if you need me to answer something, because dear Lord, people are going to ask me on my Twitter no matter what I do. I love you all, I swear.
Right. So, actually, one other thing. Funny you mentioned something reaching 100 issues. You know what? The one comic that I still cannot believe reached 100 issues, and yes, I do own it. Don't judge me.
Sure. Are you talking about Tarot?
Nope.
My Little Pony?
Yeah, the fact that reached 100 issues and then ended on 102.
Exalted Speed, the most animal guy in history. Oh dear Lord, you have no idea.
Yeah, but
I will say this.
Reached it.
Yeah, I'll say this. If you need me this weekend, I am completely fucking gone.
No problem. I understand. Well, for me, I'm going to be at Motor City Comic Con this weekend with a friend who's coming in to visit.
I have a huge family event, so I have to take
I'm aware. I saw your tweets about it. I understand.
Oh, thank you. It's not a huge... Look, it's a thing.
I know. I understand. You don't need to say any more. You do not need to say any more.
Yeah, no, I do have Eldritch comic knowledge.
Oh, trust me, I do too.
Oh, believe me, I know what Mr. Monster is.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you again, Exalted, and catch you guys all later.
All right, have a good one. See ya.